How's everyone doing today? I got a request to do a video on details about stealth camping and showing where to stealth camp. And the reality is there are so many videos out there where people drive around and kind of show you that. And the reality is about that is every state, every county, every town is different. Having traveled now all the way around the country except for like the South and Texas. Everywhere else I was in a van on my last adventure. Every place is different, and so you have to just follow guidelines in your best judgment and just hope for the not knock. So the biggest thing is you always want to be on public land, public roads, city parking, no private unless you have permission. So Walmart, it's good, but still, you should ask permission. It's not really stealth camping because they allow it. There's other places, in Florida at least, the Cracker Barrel, which I've never been to, but they allow camping, overnight camping at, I think it's a restaurant. They allow overnight camping or overnight sleeping at their restaurant, and it's kind of known. Now, not many people use it because they have kind of small parking lots, but that's something that's good to know. And if it's kind of known, you can ask, hey, do you guys really, go in and ask, is it okay if we park here? I heard you could. And I've never done it, but I heard you can. The other weird thing, like I said, every place is different. In Florida, especially as you get further south, because it gets more and more narrow in South Florida, when you look at a map, it's like, oh, this big wide area, right, from coast to coast, but the whole middle of that is all the Everglades and protected lands where there's no cities, there's no towns, it's all for the animals in the swamps and all that, for the natural environment. And so you have these thin little strips of land on the edge, right along the edge of Florida, where people actually live. Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Palm Beach, Florida, Tampa, like all these, and I'm sure there's more areas, but like right along the edges is all you can live, and so space is at a premium. And so in southern Florida, there are no sidewalks in neighborhoods, and and the streets are just wide enough to fit 2 cars down. That's it. There is no shoulder on the streets here. The shoulder is the grass. So if you wanted to park somewhere, you have to park in the grass in front of somebody's house. And so it doesn't and that's not true 100% everywhere. There are places around here where I have stealth parked in neighborhoods where it's a one-way street and there is specific parking. But this was a smaller town, it's different. Most of it, when you drive by neighborhoods, it's a tiny little road and you park in the grass. And from my understanding, that grass is owned by the homeowner. So now you're on private property. And unless they get permission from them, they can call the police because you're parked directly in front of their house. In other parts of the country, let's say Colorado, Michigan, even Northern California, there's other areas, gosh, even up in other big cities, it's not this crowded, it's not this tight, and there's parking all over the place in neighborhoods. You can just drive into a neighborhood, drive around, and find a spot. And what you're looking for in a neighborhood is you don't want to be parked directly in front of someone's house. You could be parked across the street from them maybe, but not in front of their house. Because you look out the window and see somebody, that's not cool to be parked there. Or that's not cool for them to see you there. They're going to call the cops. You want to be someplace where you fit in. So when we were in the school bus, the 39-foot school bus that was painted a different color, it had it had house windows I put in there. We would park on public roads away from houses, but since we were so out of place, people would call the police and say there's a strange vehicle parked on the road, and even though it was 100% legal, the cops had to come every time, knock on our door and say, hey, are you guys okay? And we'd say, yeah, we're okay, we're just parked here for the night. And they'd go, okay, and they would leave. But we'd still get the knock on the door because they have to check out every time somebody complains. One time we were on a legal road on a weekend where we'd parked a bunch of times in the winter, but the farmer was out plowing his field, and we watched him plowing. He was way far away. And he called the cops from his tractor because there was a strange vehicle parked on a road by a business, not even by the doors, on the backside of a business, and semis parked there, but we didn't look normal, and so he called the cops to make sure everything was okay. Cops came, everything was okay. I still had to spend 20 minutes explaining to him what we were doing, why we were doing it, and then he was fine with me, fine with us. And he said, okay. And at that point, that's when we said, that's it. The bus is just too big. We got to find a permanent place to park it. Then we just parked it on a farm. We found a farm. We parked it at for the rest until the county came and said you can't have two people living on one property. Because it was so big there, it stood out even on someone's big farm. All right, so don't park directly in front of houses. You can park between two houses, across the street. A lot of times in neighborhoods, you'll be right in front of a house, a corner house, and if you turn the corner of the corner house, you're on the side of their house, and on the other side, it's the side of the house too, because both houses are facing the front of the other street. So you turn that corner and you got two side houses, and if you pull in a little bit, when they walk out their front door, they don't see you. And so it's perfect for getting in after dark and leaving first thing in the morning. Again, in neighborhoods, always first thing, in and out. Colorado has gigantic streets, and they have parking, then they have a bike lane, then they have the road. And so these have the huge streets, and it's a lot less, it's way easier there to find places to park. Florida, not so much. East Coast, it's so tight over here on the East Coast. That's why I just do Walmarts now. You've already seen the video where I got busted at a hotel, so they are even tight here because crime. So you have to look at all your surroundings. Public streets, you want to blend in. You want your vehicle to kind of match where you're at. If you can get more industrial, or if you're in a van, an RV, nothing blends in with an RV, but if you're in a van, if you're in an apartment building where there might be construction where people work and bring their vehicles. Don't look for the ritziest neighborhoods, the nicest neighborhoods. They watch the most. You want to go middle class to middle lower class, where working class people, and in and out early, in late, out early, always in out early, and make sure it's a public road. We've got busted before because it looked like a public road. There was no signage, but it was a private road that they were doing construction. They were building houses on, and there was no signage, and usually there is, but it wasn't, and it was all this open space. It was too good to be true. I was like, oh my gosh, look at this place. I can't believe they made this for us. Well, no, the cops came because the security guard came through and saw us and called the cops, and they just said, hey, the other part of, you got to move, go to this place. The other part of it is I've heard people say, and I haven't done it, but you can go to the police station or go to the courthouse and say, where's a good place for me to park for the night? I'm in for the night. I'm in town I'm traveling through and I need a place to stay. Where's a safe place for me to go? And frame it that way. And they might give you good answers. I've heard videos where people say that works good for them. So, and then just be ready for the knock on the door. Even like we were on public land or on a public street with our school bus, we still got knocked on because we were too out of place, and it was so big it wouldn't fit in any neighborhood. So even though it was 100% legal and the cops couldn't do anything to us, they still had to ask. And so you don't want to be in a place where someone has to ask and you get knocked on. because we don't drink, we don't drink, no drugs. But what happens if you get knocked in the middle of the night and you're drunk? And you're legally parked on that street, but somebody, for some reason, because you're not in the right area, I have no idea what happens if you have alcohol in your vehicle. It depends what the cops are like, I guess. So that's another, you don't want that to come up. You don't want to get that knock. Even if you're not drinking or on some kind of drug, you just don't want it. So if you're going to stealth, make sure it's in a place where you're going to blend in, and make sure you're on public land, on public streets, and that the laws are followed. And like in Southern California, you're not supposed to sleep in your vehicle overnight. You can be parked overnight, you're not supposed to sleep there. But a lot of people did it, and we did it. And so I don't know what that law means. I guess if they want to be jerks, they can do something. But at your, do it at your own risk. I'm not the expert because I've had my knock. I've been knocked on 5 times in the last year, and 3 times in the bus. 3 times in 2 months in the bus. We could never find a good place in the school bus. Just didn't work. So I'm not the expert. I'm just telling you, it can be fun, but in early or in late, out early is your best defense against the cops. All right, everybody.